All right, so today we're going to be talking about shadow work, giving you a quick introduction. So first we're going to start off with the shadow. What does it mean? All you need to really know is that the shadow is the dark side, or the dark part of your being, consciousness, psyche, whatever you want to call it. And this means that it is the part of yourself that you have rejected and repressed. Now that can be for many different reasons, and it can be many different things that you have decided to reject and repress in yourself. Usually for most people, this involves anger, trauma, insecurities, dark fantasies, things that we don't want other people seeing in us, right? Could also be more positive things, positive emotions and positive aspects of our being, but for whatever reason, we were taught to repress those aspects of ourselves, our joy, our happiness, our creativity and spontaneity, things of that nature, right? But all you need to know at the end of the day is that the shadow is the part of yourself you have rejected and repressed. Bad habit source. What I mean by that is that, what is a bad habit, right? It is essentially an unconscious behavior that leads to a negative result. And by negative, I think the best way to describe that or define that is unsustainable. So why is smoking a bad habit? Because it's unsustainable. You can't continue to smoke and to live a healthy life, or continue to smoke and live to continue smoking. Where something like exercise is sustainable because you exercise, which makes you fit and healthy, which allows you to continue being somebody who can exercise, and it's self-perpetuating. That would be a healthy, sustainable activity, right? And then the key with the bad habit is that it is unconscious. So the shadow, because it's repressed and rejected, or it's more of a container of the things you've rejected and repressed, it is in your subconscious mind. We've created the classic, everyone's probably seen it, iceberg analogy, where you have the conscious area, the aware area, right? So this is like the light of awareness is shining on the ego persona, the conscious part of your being, your psyche, that everyone can see and that you can see from yourself, right? And then as you go beneath the surface, the larger part, the more impactful part of your being psyche, the subconscious mind, where your shadow exists, okay? So the shadow contains the parts of yourself, the areas of yourself that are fueling your bad habits. And they have to be unconscious, because if they were conscious, if you were consciously aware of the source of your bad habits, you would stop doing them. The reason why they're called bad habits is because they are inherently unconscious and impulsive. You can't control the fact that you want to overeat. You can't control the fact that you constantly smoke or do substances or have too much sex, watch porn. You get the point. You don't have conscious control over it. So therefore it is unconscious and a bad habit. 3, trauma response. So that's really just how the shadow is created. When we grow up, we are raised by adults that have their own shadows and their own idiosyncrasies, right? Particular things that they want to show to people and particular things they do not want to show to people. Or certain things they allow you as a child to express and certain things they do not allow you as a child to express. And so say, for example, you get angry and you start yelling and screaming and crying and maybe throwing some things. And then the adults that have full control on whether you live or die punishes you and tells you, no, we do not do this in this house. You are not allowed to get angry. You are not allowed to throw things. You are not allowed to express yourself in that fashion through anger. So therefore, don't show it. What they're implicitly saying, and a lot of times explicitly saying, is none of that. Keep that inside, reject and repress that. Most likely because when they were kids, they were told the same thing. Now you can kind of see how there's like this vicious cycle with shadows being passed down from generation to generation. I wasn't allowed to express these certain things, these certain parts of my being. Therefore, my children will not be able to express these parts of their being. But in an ideal society, the shadow becomes smaller and smaller with each generation as we continue to heal. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. It also depends on where you live in the world. So, yeah. So we know what the shadow is. We've kind of defined that pretty decently. So then shadow work. What is shadow work? It is the process of, so we're here, like right now, your ego and persona is like looking at me, looking at my ego and persona, right? I have this mask on, and you probably have less of a mask on right now because you're most likely watching this alone, but your ego is looking at my ego and trying to decide if I'm full of shit. Maybe. Shadow work is going into the subconscious. So we take our awareness, right? We have awareness, consciousness, and we start to bring it down in to the subconscious mind. And we start to go deeper and deeper. And so this is, why people don't really like to do shadow work or aren't really aware of it, or it's not too common. It's not something you do as an elective in high school or college. It can be uncomfortable in the subconscious mind, right? You have your insecurities, negative emotions like guilt, forbidden feelings, right? Another way of saying negative emotions, deep secrets, painful memories. And the shadow, like I said before, it's less of a part of yourself and more like a location. Think of it like Detroit or Florida. It's just a place, a place that we don't like, but I'm just kidding about if you're from Florida, I'm sorry, or Detroit, but you get the point. It's just a place that for whatever reason, people are not fucking with, to keep it simple. Go into the subconscious mind, and you gotta face this part of yourself, but really there's multiple parts of yourself in the shadow. Whole video to explain that more deeply, but you gotta face the shadow parts of yourself. Face the parts of yourself that have been rejected. Face your anger, face your inner demons, face your insecurities and painful memories and trauma, right? And then through this work that you do, you learn how to integrate these parts of yourself, meaning you make them conscious in a healthy way. A really quick example, because this can sound kind of vague, is that, say for example, you repressed your anger. You've disconnected from your anger, which usually leads to people pleasing and, let's say, negative self-talk, because instead of expressing your anger, you're taking it out on yourself, you're internalizing it, right? So you have negative self-talk and you're a people pleaser who doesn't like to make mistakes. When you face this anger, you accept it, you integrate it through a certain process. Depends on the person. I have my own method, but everybody has their own method. You face this anger, you accept it, you integrate it through a certain process, and then you can start expressing your anger in a healthy way. What would this look like in the example that I gave? Standing up for yourself, exercising, using that anger to move towards your goals in an assertive and powerful way. Many different ways to manifest anger in a healthy way. And so it's not unconscious, because usually what happens, especially with people who are people pleasers, you hold it in, you take a bunch of shit. Oh, it's fine. Oh, me, I'm okay. I don't need anything. And then eventually, for whatever reason, you blow up and you make a big scene and people say, hey, what the fuck? And you say, oh my God, sorry. And then the cycle continues. And then eventually you just hold it in, and you're like a ticking time bomb. Or you could just be assertive in the moment, draw boundaries, not let it get past a certain point, and release that anger through exercise, physical activity, expression, music, whatever it is, whatever you want to do. That's how I did it, exercise, music, yoga, physical activity. But for you, it may be different. So that's just a quick example of how you integrate your shadow. And then at the bottom here too, collective unconscious. So this is more like, this is your personal subconscious mind. The deeper you go, it becomes more and more unconscious. And then you have the collective unconscious, which whole other can of worms, but you could think of it like the spirit realm, higher dimensions, just the collective mind that fuels each one of our individualized pockets of consciousness. So we think that we're separate from each other, but we're not. Finally, okay, so I just explained what shadow work was probably you're like, that sounds uncomfortable. Why would anyone do that? That sounds awful and painful. And it kind of is. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Not gonna sugarcoat it. Shit is uncomfortable. And then sometimes very painful. And then at the worst, I mean, reality shattering, like you don't even know who you are anymore. That's why you need a guide usually, right? You don't always want to do this shit by yourself. It can get dark. So, but the purpose is you make your habits conscious. So when you do shadow work, you integrate that anger. Oh my God, that negative voice in your head starts to get quieter. And wow, you start to stand up for yourself and you stop people pleasing and you're no longer a doormat. You know why you were people pleasing, why you were talking shit to yourself constantly, why you were overeating. Oh, it was because I had this part of myself that I was rejecting and it was trying to manifest itself through my bad habits. It was trying to get my attention through my bad habits. And when you integrate that part of yourself, the bad habits just, and you are consciously aware of why you were doing everything that you were doing. Amazing, because then you can move forward without self-sabotage and without doing things that are not aligning with where you want to be going in life. So crazy powerful, transform. So through this process of conscious habits, doing things that only serve your long-term goals and desires, you transform yourself into the best version of yourself. Now you're constantly transforming. I'm on that path as well. It's really, until you reach enlightenment, there's really no end to it, right? But the more you keep playing the game, the better you get at it. And you kind of evolve and get more points and attract better things into your life and possibilities start to open up for you. So it's worth it, in my opinion. And then finally, you unlock gifts, find purpose. I don't know if you noticed, but in the subconscious, there's also past life memories, which is a whole other can of worms, but life purpose and hidden talents. Things that give your life meaning, give a bigger picture to the chaos and suffering that is existence on planet Earth, is in your shadow. It wasn't until I started doing shadow work that I realized that, okay, the reason why I went through my own mental suffering, pain, trauma, is to learn how to heal it, transform it, and then help other people. And it kind of gives all the negative parts of life, all the painful parts of life, this new context of meaning. I don't know if everyone's seen it, but one great example is the movie Pursuit of Happiness, or any movie, right? Where during it, it's a struggle, but then you get to the end of the movie and the protagonist or whoever succeeds and it makes everything else worth it. It makes all the pain and training worth it. Rocky, kind of, right? That can also be your life once you start looking inside of yourself and doing the work, right? Now, as I said before, shadow work can be difficult and painful. And so it's always best to have a guide, have a step-by-step framework of how to actually properly do it in the right amount of time and at your own pace. I have a guide, transformation guide, that you can get the link down below if you want a step-by-step process. You can also sign up to work with me one-on-one if you feel like there are certain inner demons or past life memories or darker aspects of your shadow that you've been keeping a bit at bay because you're not confident in facing them yourself. So if you want to sign up for that, link is in the description as well. Cheers. Thank you.